Good afternoon, everyone. Let's start with our panel on retail and financial services, the convergence between those two universes on behalf of a purchasing experience to all consumers. We're here with specialists in the market, people who experience this scenario every single day, and gonna be telling us a little bit about their experiences, the challenges they face, and the way they see the market. My name is Fernando Tassim. I'm part of Techiba, and I'm part of the payment committee here at FecomercioSP, supporting all the initiatives with the Central Bank of Brazil and other bodies related to retail stores. I'm going to ask each one of my colleagues here to introduce themselves so we can start the conversation. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ricardo Lagreca. I'm the legal director for Mercado Livre. Good afternoon. My name is André Barretto. I'm the founder and CEO of UNIKE Technologies. Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with you. My name is Allan. I'm the executive director of InterShop, the marketplace of Interbank. Good afternoon. My name is Tijana Jankovic, and I'm CEO of Rappi in Brazil. All right. So, ladies first, we're going to start with you, Tiana. So, the way you see it, Tiana, how do you see the segmentation in the market in which we have banks doing stores of services, marketplace, with operations intertwined with financial services, selling products and services to their consumers. We also have assembly liner creating wallets, so it's hard to segment the clients and to have a broad view of their experience so that they're not just understood as a figure and rather as an individual. So how do you deal with that at Rappi? Well, we're proud of starting this trend. We were the first super app in Latin America, and now all of you are super apps. So you see this trend for the future to have in this region a Latin America version of super app, which is not exactly the same as the Chinese version, which it was previous than ours. But due to the region, it has been implemented in our continent over the last few years, fostered by the pandemic in particular. So we have three core journeys for the user, and they're separated in a way. So we're going to be focusing on one of them. But as you mentioned before, one is the actual purchase journey in the digital means. Either it's retail and e-commerce or last mile. The second part will be the financial journey that has been put together with the accounts management, credit card, and investments. And the third part would be the social part. So basically entertainment, but also communications in a digital world. So when we look at the Asian model, they are able to unite all of these three parts in a single app. So that's the prevailing business model there. And you see that here, at first, we have been creating those three pillars that at the end of the day, most marketplaces that have been introducing some of those pillars, they're doing that through partnerships. So we're not forecasting this future using this Asian model in which we're able to unify all those journeys in a single app. But we believe that in the future, users who are looking for two or three apps in which they will concentrate their digital experiences. So an app for all the purchases and sales, which is what we're here, what we set ourselves to do in the last mile. And I believe you try to do that in the e-commerce world. But also the financial matters. So many banks are expanding their user experiences, but also the scope of products that are provided for in this app. And the third part is social, which has been segregated. No one was able to unite the social journey. So we're still taking baby steps in that sense. We don't have a super app concept for the social part. That's it, basically. And along with the pressure carried out by inflation that we are subjected to, the scalability of those businesses, the need of as well of reducing costs as much as possible. Obviously, everyone is going to try to verticalize as much as possible the number of services within their own operation, or through strategic partnerships, or by doing by themselves. In our case, just to wrap it up, we have been touching on the financial services part, but we have been dealing with that in such a way that we see this as an expansion of our fidelity program named Prime. So the Prime user has this Rappi card with the best cashbacks in the market, but it's more linked to that than the actual 360 degrees world. So you're able to see that the Rappi user in the future not going to have a financial service app focusing only on the app of Rappi. No, it's not going to be like that. We're going to focus, they're going to have another app meant for their financial services. Okay, very cool. So it's very common for us to talk about the digitalization process, the digitalization of business, of clients, payment method like Pix, open finance, facial recognition, all of that. But we should bear in mind that those methods should be complementary to one another. So we need to think about the fact that there are clients that were born digitally, so from the age 2000 onwards, but we also have these previous generations that are about our age. So how do you see that from the complementary standpoint so that the client will not feel excluded from this process? So how can you meet the client, the needs of a client that thinks himself as digital, or a client that would rather have a traditional service like going to the traditional bank or going to a supermarket to pay their bills? So how can you not exclude this client in such a fast digitalizing world? Well, I'm going to introduce our ecosystem first. So we started as a marketplace for Mercado Livre, and the creation of these other business units, it was natural because we had two bottlenecks in e-commerce, payment and delivery. So Mercado Pago was created to improve the payment experience, and then Mercado Envios was created for logistics. And now you notice that we have this ecosystem. The more buyers you have, the more sellers you attract, the more sellers you, and vice versa. So all of that is reinforcing the system, and then we add advertising, we add credit to it. Now, diving into your question, Fernando, it's good to notice that 25% of the payment methods used in the marketplace is Pix. And this people's profile is made up usually by people who don't own a credit card, meaning that you will include new users that needed to use hard copy invoices and actually go to a bank that can use Pix today, with accounts that are not really in traditional banks, but rather in digital banks. So we felt this need of moving to the physical world. So we have a physical credit card, we have the credit card machine. So we see these other facets because we want to meet the demands of these people. They want to have this account in Mercado Pago, but they want to cash out the money if they need, because they're going to need cash where they live. So the consumer is the one who did dictate that rule. We're not going to say that Brazil is going to go 100% digital because of that. So we have a large share of the population who are still dependent upon the physical aspects of things, so they don't have access to smartphones and such. All right, just to comment on what you said, very well put, actually. Something that actually defines this matter and this perspective is the experience that these people will get. So regardless of their age or the technological level, and we are talking about experience here, right? So how is the consumer's experience moving forward? And how it used to be as well. So how do these people react to that, regardless of their age group or the way that the adoption level? And I actually analyze my relatives and people close to me, like my father, who is a 76-year-old man, and he said, "Oh, I don't want to get an Uber because for me it's easier to actually ask for a cab on the street." And once he tried the Uber, he said it was pretty cool. I'm here at home, and how would a cab know that I need to a cab? So that's the benefit of Uber. So how can we include those people naturally? I would say that we're going to be dealing with the figures that you mentioned, like 25% of people already using Pix. It can be an inclusive technology. But on the other hand, for those who already have it and use it, they start to adopt it in a more constant way. All right, just to comment on that, it's very important when we talk about experience, we're talking about specific models, right? So we stem from the hard copy model, in which you actually need paper hard copies, and then we went to a model in which we migrated to digital, but you still wanted hard copies. And now we migrated to Pix, which is it's digital to a level that the user is still concerned. Did they actually receive the amount I sent? So then we start sharing everything. You share the receipts. You share. We even share more information than we used to. But the easiness to go digital, it goes through this lack of confidence. So as you mentioned, once the person experiences that, they are not afraid anymore because they realize the benefits. They start to adopt these best practices and they start to understand what it means to go digital, and they start to adopt those technologies. All right, just to wrap up, the way we should look at the future is not that the digital is going to steal the room from the physical, but is that physical should not be carried out just out of need. It should be carried out of pleasure. Recently, I attended this seminar about dopamine retail. So it's about how a digital experience become a hypersensual experience and an experience of brands for people to connect with the brands in a deeper way. So basically appealing to the senses instead of having a transitional relationship. So we have a native brand which is 100 digital. When we're looking at the World Cup, we have a sponsorship and we're creating this Rappi house, which would be a hub and a connection point to our users. So that's the physical aspect of things. It's not going to be about the transaction. The physical is going to be about the experience. Something that I would like to hear from you is, every time you open a newspaper or you're going to read a piece of news, at some point they're going to quote the data protection law. So the data protection law, the data protection law. But one of the products, or 2 or 3 products that have using the LGPD is open finance and open insurance in their speeches, meaning that the client needs to give me consentment. They need to authorize me to do something. In this scenario, becoming more and more digital, and actually read this essay, and it was funny when they said that if you're actually living the pop-ups culture in a website, every website has this pop-up culture. So how can we reconcile the LGPD processes with so many different payment flows and retail workflows connected to the client's experience so that they don't get too many spam emails, not having their data leaked, and that they feel at the end of the day as having a benefit, meaning I'm giving you my data, my information to get something in return. So this is challenging in Brazil, especially when you look at the data protection law. The consentment works for some product, doesn't work for the other. So how do you see this challenge moving forward? From a governmental standpoint, do you think what could be done? With no shadow of a doubt, this law was a trendsetter. It was a deal breaker. So it was corroborating everything that people would say about data protection, and we would get into the theory of that. But it actually reinforced the side of the client, of the individual, meaning that they're feeling safe in that which they're doing. So it's quite common for people to picture this law, saying that this law would be implemented just for high-tech companies. But people don't stop to think about that the very fact that you go into a commercial building, they're taking your picture, they're extracting your data. Nobody thinks about that. So this law is actually clarifying those concepts. So it's not really about technology, nor law. It's about communication. So how can we convey that to people? How we can convey this need of doing a specific activity that will be using sensible data of these people in question. So, and they have the right to know what's the usage or the purpose of that, and they can choose to do it or not to do it. So it's more a cultural matter, really, that people in general should understand how this law, LGPD, works, how it circulates with this rule. So this law is actually a rule in which you state what are the rights and tasks that each person should carry out. All right, from our perspective, this law, LGPD, is super important. We have implemented this standard in 18 countries in Latin America. And we have this bi-yearly report, and the consultations regarding data protection. Brazil has 90%, over 90% of those researchers. And Argentina and other countries have older laws for data protection. So that's the first thing that it stands out. First of all, because it's a new law, obviously, so people are curious about that. But it's also important to bear in mind that people are becoming aware of that. So people are a bit afraid of that, and they lack the knowledge, but we're going through a transition period. So let me exemplify with a case, a logistic case of ours. Due to tax laws on the package, you had to fill out a lot of information, personal information of users. And we were able to reconcile this law with with tax law. We were able to amend and make an adjustment in a way that we transform this data into barcode so as to protect the data of this physical package. So in the old days, it would have the CPF number, the tax number, and now all you have to fill in is the address, and the other informations are hidden. So obviously, the individual can access that through a QR code and a barcode as well. So we're in the middle of that. We cannot. We have to find a common ground. That's the challenge that we're facing right now. So this LGBT law has been implemented everywhere, and we can see the behaviors and this learning wave per se, how we're going to deal with data. So as this marketplace is an institution, has many financial services, modules, and regimes, our greatest challenge is how am I going to be able to talk to the client at the right moment and about a specific topic. So we have many clients that we get from investments or real estate credit, and we're able to link to them many products and services. But when you look at this law, you're going to see some obstacles to overcome because they haven't accepted those communications yet, as these new products, it's in the same ecosystem.
So that's why we have this challenge on how can we contact the customer by keeping the protection they demonstrated, but showing that they have more things on the super app and they can get the benefit of several resources. So that's why we are thinking here about legislation issues as well. Yes, we are here and innovation experience. So I'm going to be very futuristic, but with a provocation for the public sector to act upon that. Because, as we've said, some years ago, if we knew that pigs would be regulated by the central bank and lotteries, TADs, and dogs, and time limitation limits. So it's very difficult to believe that we will have something that's going to be regulated from the central bank that's going to be very necessary. So how would that be PIX for the LPT? In my view, would be like that. In fact, we know that we have LPT, as we were talking about. We have a different authorizations and different conflicts, terms and conditions. So if we had something more standardized according to the Brazilian law, we have a level of permission that we enable and we regulate it. So we have red, yellow, green of everything that we need to update. So there is this general education from the population. I think that it would simplify the LGBT population by providing a richer user experience for consumers, because that is what everybody would like to have. Once we talk about products and services that are commercialized, Mercado Livre, and all of that, everybody knows that it is the product more superficial, but we know how it works. However, once we look to our public, it is a merge of CPF and CNPJ. In a scenario that the segments are very mixed, at FecomercioSP, we needed to deal with an urgency when the central bank had a regulation from the credit agency 2017, and then someone said that we were not there no regulation. So we need to have professionals that are taking into account the financial scenario and the retail, because everything's complemented, and also the challenges for the products and services, because what is the best university to have good careers, people with good careers? We have agile methodologies, but we need to develop a squad, have a group of people. How do you see these challenges of a professional, the profile of a professional, and the drawbacks in order to break those silos of companies? For instance, that specific area is more bureaucratic, so that's why we need to have the director and not the project manager. So how is the term? How do you face it? What would be the case for other corporations? I will be talking about diversity. We do not believe in any university speaking 5 languages. We've changed our process of hiring. Today we are more open. As for gender, levels of leadership, in a short list of 3, we need to have a woman. We have a cultural interview. The person might be expert, but if the person doesn't have the the knowledge, this person is not taken into account. So the way you hire is changed. And that is according to different perspectives. So then you have innovation, you have this kind of collaboration, because if I decide everything by myself, if everybody thinks like me, you know, so we need to have different ideas, so then we can work with innovation and make things happen. As from the cultural point of view, and these are cultural aspects that we will have a proliferation of ideas in order to achieve these goal. And we are very proud of our diversity level. And we have a 40% of women. As for black people, we have 46%. So it's not the ideal level, but we are reflecting Brazil, and we are having more diversity, because here at Faria Lima is different, but it might be different considering the other regions of Brazil. In our case, one very important point that bring these people together is that it is about the purpose. I've graduated in technology, I've worked as a programmer, and then everything that wasn't good, bugs, the system, and today we have programmers. They are different now. So I followed throughout 25 years of career a series of changes. We started perceiving and collecting people with a different purpose. I'm not going to talk about diversity, ethnicity, and gender, because I came from an area that it was different before time. And also the purpose, because today we are a company, a tech company, and we also sell experiences. It's not only about technology, so it's the purpose that bring everybody together, regardless of the difficulty that we have in some areas, new terms, new job titles. So these people, they get together for the same purpose, considering what we have lived in the last years. It's important because when we talk about product, hardly ever everybody is going to know everything about it, because we do have to be part of our team, we need to have good folks, because everybody needs to be together. We need to work with teamwork, because we use this provocation, right? And we don't have that mindset that the person knows everything. No, because the person who doesn't know might know more than the person who knows everything. So it's not like that person who knows everything. But the beauty of the e-commerce is that everything everything looks similar, but it's different. So if you have 4 people from 4 different areas, we don't have that. We have the collaborative model, technology. They have a very good case, a squad. And do you know what is nota fiscal? And they don't know. So users, they always ask to use Excel, and developers, they get very mad, right? Because developers, they develop different programs. So we want to share our pains, our concerns, and it is about having these provocations. We want people who want to learn, and we need to understand in order to look for people who want to make things different. And the future is uncertain, and we need to change all the time. Provocative, and we need to respect other people's opinions and provide the best experience, the best
Muito bom,
customer
Allan.
experience
Acho que,
possible.
assim, tem livro que
Yeah,
é muito bom, eu
and
recomendo muito, que se chama
there is
Range,
also
que
a
fala
book
sobre o
that is called The
talento dos
Range.
generalistas no novo mercado de
There
trabalho.
is the
E eu
generalists
concordo muito com isso, porque eu acho
on
que,
the
de
market,
fato,
and I
como a
totally
gente
agree
opera
with that
hoje
because
e
the way we
quem se
operate
destaca
today
dentro das nossas
and
organizações
those
e
who
quem consegue
highlight
se
within our
identificar com várias
organizations
audiências
are
e várias
those
áreas
who
de trabalho
identify in
onde a
different
gente atua.
areas of the
Então,
work.
que normalmente destaca uma boa
So,
pessoa, principalmente de produto, né? Que é na parte
and
de
even
iniciação da
considering
inovação que acontece
product,
dentro das nossas
the
empresas.
initiation of
Bom, a pessoa
innovation,
precisa entender e ter empatia por
people
todas as
they need to
audiências que a
understand
gente
and have
atende, né? Muitas
empathy,
vezes isso é bastante
and
complicado, uma pessoa
oftentimes this is
externamente
very
para a gente, assim como
complicated,
para o Mercado Livre, são 3 audiências,
as
né?
Mercado Livre,
Usuário, parceiro,
3
fornecedor
publics,
e audiência de
user,
entregador,
partner,
parceiro, ou enfim, profissional de logística.
supplier,
Além de todas as
partner,
outras
and
audiências
also
internas,
other
investidores, enfim, né?
audiences,
Então essa é uma
investors,
parte.
and
E a
so
outra
on.
parte é normalmente
The other
um ótimo
part
product manager, dos
is,
melhores, são
for
as
instance,
pessoas que
an excellent
operaram,
project
então que
manager
estavam na ponta. Eu tenho uma
are the
experiência de
ones that
operação,
are
que tem uma experiência
frontline,
ou uma
who have a
convivência
very good
comercial, porque no final
experience
das
or
contas
a very good
sempre é
commercial
preciso, e que
experience,
também teve exposição à
and
tecnologia
and also
diretamente para
who
poder
had been
gerenciar um
exposed to
backlog de forma
technology
efetiva.
directly in order
E
to
assim,
manage a backlog in a
por
very
que a
effective way.
questão que você mencionou de
Because
ágil, de
what you've
squads, de
mentioned
total dominante, não porque você
about
coloca as pessoas nos squads e isso, né, se dá o check the box lá que você resolveu o
the
problema.
check the
É que eu acho que
box,
a gente sempre está
because
passando sempre mais para uma
we are going through
organização
a
dentro da
reorganization
empresa de
within the
donos de
company,
problemas e não donos de área. Eu acho que é
problem
isso que faz a
owners
diferença, né? Porque
and
a
not problem
divisão
solvers, because the
organizacional
division,
tradicional por
the
área não é
organizational
mais compatível
division
com a
per area
excelência
is not
360 que eu acho que todos
compatible with the
nós
360
comprometemos a entregar para
experience
o usuário.
that we
Então,
are all committed
normalmente
to
os squads
provide
onde mais
to
faz a
our
diferença, a gente
users.
faz muito isso, é
So
quando você separa
the
umas pessoas
difference is
para
that
focarem em 360
when you
de um problema e se
separate people to
identificarem com a
focus
audiência
on
que enfrenta esse
360
problema neste momento. Então,
and to deal
acho
with
que
problem
essa
solving,
passagem obrigatória por várias
I
áreas,
think
por vários
that
tipos de experiência
going
profissional,
through different
independentemente de
areas,
fato
having different
faculdade, curso, vai ser assim
experiences,
sempre menos
regardless
importante e a
of the
vivência vai ser sempre mais
university and
importante.
the level of
E o que vai
education, is
definir,
going
eu
to be
acho que
very important, and that
os
will also
profissionais
define
ganhadores do futuro.
professionals
Legal.
for the future.
Abordando aqui mais sobre aspectos financeiros
As
dentro
for
do
the
varejo, né?
financial
Nós temos
aspects,
processo muito grande sendo tocado agora nos
we
Estados
have
Unidos,
a
que é o
large
SPTW, né? Que é um processo
process
também sendo
in
tocado
the
pelo
United
Federal Reserve,
States
que é o que
from
eles
the
chamam de
Federal
PIX,
Reserve
o PIX americano, né?
that
Mas
they
ele vai
call
além
the
disso.
American
Ele vai
PEGs,
de emissão de
but
duplicados,
they even go
digitais, é um
beyond.
processo muito mais amplo. Algo que a gente já experimenta aqui, né?
Something that
Aqui,
we are experiencing
aqui a
here.
gente já conhece o crediário há mais de 20, 30 anos e agora o pessoal fala do
We
Buy Now
know
Pay Later, né? Pra gente já
for
é
that
mais
for many years.
tradicional.
So
Parcelamento em cartão, pra gente também
paying
faz do dia a
installments
dia.
using credit
Outros
card
mercados
is part
já
of our
experimentam
daily
isso.
routine, and other markets
Queria ouvir
are
de vocês um ponto que
starting
é,
to try it.
hoje, desenhando um funcionário
But
onde os
today,
sistemas
having
financeiros
this
estarão cada vez mais
scenario,
conectados, todos eles
financial
utilizando até
systems,
da
they
mesma
are
plataforma
very
tecnológica de
connected
ISO
in
20022,
a
para facilitar.
technological
O PIX mesmo tem uma
2022
proposta de internacionalização
technology.
para 60
PIX
países, né,
has
para
an
japoneses.
internalization for
Temos
other
UPI na Índia.
countries.
A Índia é
We
1
have
milhão e meio de
UPI
pessoas
in
usando
India,
lá sistemas
1
financeiros,
million and a
desses 1
half
milhão e
people
meio, 1
using
bilhão usa o UPI,
financial services,
né?
and 1
Temos
billion
o
using
próprio Japão.
API.
Como é que vocês veem esse processo para facilitar, por exemplo, a expansão do varejo
How
nacional
do
para o
you use this
internacional,
process
levando em
to
conta os
expand
desafios
it
ainda que a
from
gente
the
tem
national to the
no mercado
international
nacional. A
market?
gente estava conversando aqui antes do painel,
As
a
we
gente
were talking
3% da população
before the
brasileira
panel,
recebe salário em dinheiro
23%
físico.
of the
Como lidar com esses
Brazilian
desafios, né?
population
Como é que vocês veem esse
receive
cenário
their
de
wage
oportunidades
uh,
tanto para o mercado
in
europeu,
physical
leste europeu
currency.
e asiático, como também
And
para a América
the
Latina,
East
onde o
Europe
Mercado Livre,
and
por exemplo, ele
Asia,
nasce
Latin
logo depois do
America,
embarque aqui no Brasil.
and
Eu
here
vou
in
pegar o
Brazil.
gancho então, Fernando. Bom, eu vejo uma super oportunidade, né? A
So
gente
I see a big
hoje foca, né,
opportunity
nos mercados locais.
focusing on
O
local
Mercado Livre, por
markets,
exemplo, né? Mais de
Mercado
500 mil
Livre,
famílias vivem de vender
more
no Mercado
than
Livre hoje. Só na pandemia,
500,000
nós
families.
incluímos
And during the
mais de
pandemic,
150 mil
we've
novos vendedores
included
que foram formalizados, profissionalizados e hoje vivem
150,000
das vendas na
new
plataforma.
sellers
Mais do que
that
isso, a
get
gente
their
consegue dar
profit and their revenue
créditos
from the
para
platform.
esses
And
vendedores
besides
e
that, we are
consumidores
also
na
able to
plataforma. Hoje
provide
nossa carteira
credit
de crédito
to
tem
the
mais de 6 bi de reais
consumers. We
e para
have credit
40%
cards.
foi o primeiro eles que conseguiram
40%
crédito na vida, não são atendidos por instituições
they
financeiras.
were
Então,
able
é um jeito de
to
você
have
incluir
their first
essas
credit
pessoas.
for the
O
very
auxílio
first time.
emergencial também, quando começou a ser
So
pago, teve uma inclusão de 40 e
the
poucos milhões, né,
pandemic
de brasileiros que passaram a ter acesso a
pandemic
essas plataformas.
payment.
No Mercado Livre foram cerca de
Um,
8 milhões
so we
de
had more than
usuários que
8 million
receberam
users who
o Auxílio
received
Brasil pelo
the
Mercado Pago.
Brazilian
E,
payment
e é um
from
pouco da nossa missão
the
também,
emergency aid,
não só essa parte que seria mais
emergency
básica, mas
aid.
também
So,
democratizar o que há de mais
and also to
sofisticado. Hoje a gente
democratize
pode,
what is
na
more
plataforma, qualquer
sophisticated,
pessoa pode investir em criptomoedas a partir
financial
de
aid,
R$1.
and
Ontem, mais de 2 milhões de
people
pessoas
can now
investindo.
invest
A gente
from
tem
R$1.
CDB, a gente tem
We have
a nossa
CDB,
moeda cripto, né, que
we
hoje
have
está
our
dentro do nosso programa
crypto
de
coin,
fidelidade. Então a ideia é que a pessoa não precisa
cryptocurrency.
ter aquela super
So the
análise de
idea is
crédito
that the
como é num
person
banco
doesn't even
tradicional.
need
Hoje
to
com
have
2
that
cliques a pessoa consegue
credit
conseguir um
analysis and
crédito
all of
de uma
that.
forma muito
The
mais simples.
person
Por quê?
can
Porque nós temos as
can get
informações
access to
do
credit, can have
ecossistema.
approval
Isso
of credit
facilita muito, você
in
conhecer o perfil do usuário.
in
Então,
seconds.
quanto
So
mais a gente entra nesse mercado, mais a
the
gente vê o
more we
potencial
reach this
para conseguir
market,
expandir.
the more
Quando
we
a gente
see the
fala
potential
de
to
mercado
expand.
internacional, por exemplo,
Once we
vendedores
talk about
brasileiros
international market,
exportando, a gente tem uma série
Brazilians
de
exporting,
barreiras
we
aí,
have different
aduanas,
drawbacks,
tarifárias
barriers,
todo esse tipo de
customs,
burocracia que acaba dificultando, né? Então a gente
taxes,
precisaria
that makes
ter
a
aí
lot
uma
of
simplificação
bureaucracy, and
disso para
it
conseguir
also makes difficult the
viabilizar.
process
Eu falo
in
mais, por
order
exemplo, a
to
tributação
make
hoje,
everything more
o
viable.
Simples Nacional
Because
é uma
taxation
ferramenta de
today,
desenvolvimento e inclusão
Simples
e recolhimento
Nacional,
de
it is an
tributos por
inclusion tool
esses pequenos e microempresários. É uma sistemática muito
for
simples.
small and
Até
medium-sized
uma das
organizations.
discussões hoje que está em Congresso é
One of the
aumentar esse teto.
discussions today in the
Simples, a gente é
Congress
super favorável
is
porque você consegue
is
deixar
to
esses empreendedores
improve
aumentando, né,
the
crescendo
Simples
cada vez
program
mais e vamos
to
deixar a
have more
complexidade para as grandes
entrepreneurs
empresas, né?
and
E
leave the
vamos deixar os
complexity
pequenos aí recolhendo de uma
to
forma
the
simples, pagando
giant
só 10 por mês.
organizations
Acho que o país tem muito a ganhar com isso.
because
O excesso de
I think
burocracia
it's going to be
afasta.
very
E aí que as
profitable for the
pessoas saem,
country.
querem sair desse mundo e ir para o
And
dinheiro físico,
people,
né? Porque elas falam, vou
they
pagar
want
muito
to leave this
tributo,
world and
mas a
they
nossa
want
plataforma
to
consegue
use the
provar que isso não
physical
é o
currency,
que
but our
acontece. Em média,
platform
quem se
proves the
formaliza
opposite
no
because
Mercado Livre, o vendedor acaba
those who
vendendo por mês
formalize on
140%
Mercado
a mais
Livre,
do que quando ele era informal. Então, tem um
uh,
jeito da gente viabilizar
there
a
is an increase
formalização,
of
profissionalização, sem medo no
140%
país.
plus of revenue.
Acrescentando um pouco aqui do que o
And
Ricardo
to add,
trouxe para a gente, muito bem falado, é muito mais do que o que, mais
so
o
it is
como,
even
né? E aí,
more
puxando um pouco a brasa
than
aqui da nossa sardinha,
what and
como que é a
how.
experiência, mais uma vez, dessas
So how is the
pessoas nessa
experience?
transação? Então, é notório que o Brasil é referência
So
aí,
it is
na questão
very, we
financeira
can see
muito
that
pouco tempo
Brazil,
atrás, com fornecedores e
few
parceiros aos
years
Estados Unidos,
ago
era
with
comum a pessoa,
suppliers,
prestador de
it is
serviço,
pretty
recebe o
common
pagamento na caixa do
people
correio
to
dele, na porta do
receive
correio, chega direto
their
no envelope.
payment
Isso estamos
in
falando
in
de
a
3, 4
check.
anos atrás aqui
through the mail
Então, quando
3 or 4
algum
years
tempo atrás
ago.
se falava em chip em cartão, você deve muito bem ter
So
acompanhado isso daí.
if you
Lá nos
used
Estados
to talk
Unidos,
about
muito era questionado,
ship
por
or
quê? Para
card,
quê? Não basta a pessoa assinar ali, quer dizer.
people
Então,
didn't even
isso que
know
eu
what
nem
it was
entraria
about.
nesse âmbito aqui, que o Brasil é de fato
So
uma
I wouldn't
referência
even
nesse sentido,
get into
mas
that.
muito mais, eu acho que é uma grande oportunidade de mostrarmos o como,
It's a
a
good
experiência. Eu vou
opportunity,
trazer um case muito legal aí voltado
and
para
I'm
varejo
going to
e
give to provide you a
serviço
case
financeiro, de um
for
serviço financeiro
retail
simples, né?
and
Compra
financial services,
consumo e pagamento, né? Num parque de
consumption,
entretenimento.
payment,
E uma vez que a gente oferece uma
entertainment,
experiência melhor ali,
and
assim
once
como é o Pix,
we
né? O Pix
provide
ele
a high
facilita muito
quality
do lado da
experience as
tecnologia,
Pix.
mas existe uma
Pix
experiência ali de você ter que abrir o seu
is very
banco, colocar a
technological,
senha,
but
comprovar,
you
ou
need
seja, você
to put
perde
your
ali algum tempo,
password.
assim como você citou aí na China, paga-se muito
As in
hoje por
China,
aplicativo
they
de
pay a
comércio,
lot
né?
for apps,
Ele entra lá
for
no
chat
site
apps,
e naquele momento sai o Pix dele ali
and
para
then
efetuar.
you have the
Então,
Pix.
nesse exemplo que a gente tem aqui,
So considering this
ele tinha um
example
modelo de
here,
consumo,
there
onde a
was a
pessoa tinha que ter um
consumption
cartão de
model
consumo ali, chegar,
in
pedir,
which
comprovar,
people
autenticar,
needed to
comprovar que
have a
ela era
card
ali para poder consumir.
and
E isso foi
prove
mudado através da
their
tecnologia, né,
data,
utilizando
sum it
alguns
up with the
artifícios da
technology
tecnologia,
and
como
using
a identificação
the
facial,
technology
etc.
for
Qual foi a
facial
primeira consequência
recognition.
disso aí? Primeiro mês de
What
utilização,
was the
23%
first
de aumento de
consequence of that?
consumo. Essas
23%
pessoas não
of
foram
increase of
obrigadas a consumir
consumption.
mais, simplesmente ficou mais fácil,
Those
a
people,
experiência
they
ficou
were not
melhor, as pessoas
obligated to
passaram a consumir
consume
mais.
more.
Em
However,
paralelo,
their user
isso foi
experience
dado para
improved. And in
ali,
parallel,
vamos dizer assim, por trás das cortinas, né? Isso foi dado
that
uma questão da redução de fraude também, uma vez
that
que eu
was
tenho ali a
also according
comprovação de
to
que,
the
de
fraud
fato, isso
reduction.
protegeu o consumidor
And it also
e a
protected
entidade que estava
consumer
operando a venda ali.
and the
Então, é mais,
entity.
no meu ponto de vista, mais o como
So
isso é
it
oferecido do
is
que o que.
about
Né? O que a gente já está mais do que escolado, já está
what
muito mais claro aí de que, de fato, o Brasil é referência nisso aí.
and Brazil is a
Bom,
reference towards
pegando
that.
pouco do gancho também, a gente vem trabalhando muito, não só
So
nas
we have been
facilidades de
working quite a
pagamento, como
lot,
também
not
vem
only
trabalhando,
considering
levando essa
the
tecnologia para
easiness
novas
of
pessoas com o
payment, but
objetivo de
also taking
facilitar
this
a vida. A gente
technology
também
to
oferece
make
portfólio
easier
de
the people's
investimento
lives.
de
We also
milhões de
provide a
reais,
portfolio
que
of
também já
investments
tem mais de
from
30% de pessoas
1
que nunca
to 2
pensaram em
million of
investir, conseguiram
reais. There are
investir
people who
um
haven't
pouco,
thought
curtir um
about
pouco desse
investment
caminho.
and
E
they are
trabalha
now
muito na
feeling this new
construção de
pathway.
crédito, né?
So we
Então,
work with
garantia e
this
avaliação, que Fernando, toda essa
construction
documentação, eles levam
of
lá, por
credit
exemplo, você tem R$ 100 de
documentation
crédito, eles
and
conseguem
they take
construir
it to
por
the
meio de
bureau.
investimento, por meio de
So, for
compra.
instance, you have
Então, hoje
100
nós temos uma
reais.
funcionalidade que a gente chama
How
de
can you
superlimite. Então,
invest
se você
with
vai
this
comprar um produto,
money?
falta pouco e você não tem
And
dinheiro, você
if you're
pode
going to
acionar
buy
essa
a
função que você
product
rapidamente
and you don't
consegue entender
have
você por
the
todo o
total
ecossistema e por
amount,
meio de
we
confiança, de
provide you
relacionamento, a gente já
a high
disponibiliza isso, que é
quality
um grande
service
diferencial.
within the
A gente tem a
ecosystem.
nossa Global
This
Account,
is a
também com o
differential.
objetivo de
We
levar
also
para
have the global
latino-americano
account
toda a funcionalidade que nós temos no Brasil,
that we
também para o
have the
mercado
whole
exterior. Essa
functionality in
funcionalidade de
Brazil,
investimento, de cashback, de mais
the
limite e
the international
facilitando quem
market,
tem no Brasil
cashback,
familiares nos Estados Unidos e assim também essa transição
people who
ajuda
live in
muito.
Brazil
Então a gente está trabalhando muito para
and
levar
have
mais
family members
soluções para
abroad.
mais pessoas
So we want
interligadas, tirando
to
fricções
provide
que normalmente a gente tem
best
no mercado
solutions
tradicional. A gente trabalha muito
considering
nessa
the
forma de
traditional
como me
market,
relacionar
better
não só
solutions.
com para mas para
And
família, né?
it's
Então
not
nós pensamos sempre
101,
isso, para integrar todas essas funções que vem dando bons resultados para a
but
gente também.
having a multi
Acho só para complementar,
set
você
of
mencionou um pouco
services.
a expansão geográfica, né,
So
das
you've
empresas
mentioned
nesse
about
contexto, e
geographical
definitivamente hoje
expansion,
é um pouco uma situação perde-perde
and
quando se usa meios
today
de pagamento e expansão de comércio, né? Por sorte, a
talk
gente ainda
about
tem uma penetração muito
means
baixa
of
de e-commerce no Brasil,
payment.
então só no
We
Brasil
have a
a gente ainda
penetration
pode
that is
crescer
very
muito.
low. In
Mas
Brazil,
seja, né, no,
we can grow
no,
even more.
no Rappi, nas
Although
outras empresas globais de que
HAP
projetou
or other
WMS,
global
sempre
organizations that
era
I've
uma
worked at,
questão que
it was
gerava muita
about
confusão, né? Que é tipo,
something that
no Brasil a gente tem uma questão de
because in
vouchers,
Brazil
né? Que é específica para o Brasil.
it is very
Temos
specific
o
for
cartão de
Brazil.
débito, que é outro
We
trilho, que
have
não
the
é tipo
debt
o de
card,
crédito, que nos Estados Unidos ninguém entende. No
credit
México
card,
tem
because
OxoPay, que é isso
in Mexico
menos
they have
ainda dá para explicar. E
OxoPay.
de fato não se vê um claro
And in
ganhador
fact,
dessas ineficiências.
we don't see
Normalmente, quando a
a
gente
person who gains with that.
no mundo que a gente vive hoje de inovação
Because the world that
tecnológica
we live today,
acelerada,
considering
quando
a
existe
very
uma
accelerated
situação onde
technological
ninguém
innovation,
ganha,
when there's a
alguém acha uma
situation
oportunidade
in
de
which
otimizar.
nobody
Então,
wins,
vale aí a esperança
so
que de fato temos as soluções mais
it is
escaláveis
important to
no
have
futuro.
trust,
E como acho
to
que o
have
Fernando
more
mencionou, com muitos
scalable
bons
solutions
exemplos
in the
do Brasil
future,
para
with good
seguir na
examples
região
from
principalmente, né?
Brazil,
Acho que na
for
América
instance,
Latina, Estados
and
Unidos
also
são
in
um
Latin
pouco o sistema
America,
seu, Ásia é
United
diferente, mas na América
States,
Latina,
Asia is
muita
also
boa
different.
referência do Brasil a ser
So
seguida.
good references
Legal.
here in
Já tá
Brazil.
se aproximando aqui do final. Vocês
We are
vão
approaching
deixar
the
no
end.
final aí de minuto,
So final messages,
relacionado
final
aí a essa
considerations,
inovação, né, a essa
considering the
convergência cada vez mais aí
innovation,
centrado
this
no cliente,
convergence,
mas levando em conta não o foco no
customer
cliente, mas o
centered.
foco do cliente, né? De saber de fato o que o cliente gostaria, de
It's
ouvir
about
o
knowing what the
cliente,
customer
para
would
que o
like to
varejo
hear
principalmente não seja
for the
visto como
retail,
as
not to be
instituições
seen
eram vistas antigamente
as
como empurrando o
the
produto, venda casada,
as
né?
just
Qual a
putting
mensagem
products and
final aí de
products,
vocês nesse sentido?
pulling products and so on. So I'd
Obrigado.
like to know
Bom, como eu
your
sou
final
do jurídico, eu vou
considerations.
comentar aí a
As
partir do
I work
jurídico,
in
né,
the
que
legal
quando deu tudo
department
errado,
from the
chegou a ação
legal point of view,
judicial,
when
a
everything went
gente
bad
tem
and we
desenvolvido
had
internamente, a gente tem uma bandeira de
legal actions.
desjudicialização, mas mais do que isso, o
So
que a gente fala internamente, eu não quero ganhar o
it's
processo
what
contra
we
o nosso
talk
cliente, eu quero que ele
internally.
continue sendo nosso cliente.
I want our
Então a gente está
customers to
desenvolvendo
remain
um
our
sistema
customers.
preditivo que vai
So that's
analisar
why
todos
we are
os dados
developing
públicos e que a gente tem
systems that
internamente do
will
perfil dos clientes e de tudo que dá errado.
analyze
A ideia é a
profiles.
gente conseguir se
So the
antecipar
idea
nas
is for
situações de
us to
estresse mais
anticipate
graves em relação ao
towards
que o cliente está
stressful
vivenciando. E aí poder
situations and
atuar
considering what the customer
preventivamente,
is living, is
proativamente, para
experiencing.
poder evitar
So then,
esse desgaste que
proactively,
no fundo vai
we would
acabar
be
numa
able
ação
to
judicial, né?
avoid
Então,
that,
hoje
to
esse é um projeto
avoid
que a gente chama de
legal
Nostradamus, né? Porque o
actions.
Nostradamus ele previa as tragédias e para nós um cliente entrar
And
como assinante para a gente é uma tragédia, mas ele não
we also
acertava
have
100%, então a gente também
tragedies,
não
but
tem a
they were
pretensão
not
de acertar
accepting
100%, né?
100%.
É um direcionamento, mas a ideia é
It
ter
is
isso sempre
an
focando ali,
idea.
a partir do que tudo que deu de errado, a gente extrair disso
So
para
upon
poder mudar a
everything that went
experiência, mudar
wrong,
fluxos,
we
mudar
need to
produtos para
change the
conseguir fazer
flows,
que os usuários acabem tendo aí um
products.
menor nível de atrito. A gente tem um dado interessante, só para acabar,
So we
que
have some
em 2008, a cada
important
100 mil transações na plataforma, a
things.
gente tinha
2000
20 ações na justiça. Hoje, a cada 100 mil
2018, we
transações,
had
a gente tem duas
we
ações
had
na justiça.
many
Se
transactions
você pegar o setor
in
aéreo,
in
a
the
cada 100
court.
mil transações, você
So
tem
if you
100
have
ações na justiça.
the
Então,
air
são coisas que a gente
industry,
precisa trabalhar e a gente tem
we
atuado
have a
muito nesse
many
foco de preventivo e com tecnologia para poder
many
realmente
legal
prever essas
actions.
situações e evitar
So
a
that's
pior
why we need
experiência
to
possível para o
avoid
usuário.
the worst
Aí a gente acaba
experience
perdendo o
considering
cliente e
the
não é por
user.
aí, né? Obrigado.
Thank you.
Bom, obrigado aí, Fernanda, pelo painel. Assim como já foi dito
Thank
aqui,
you for the panel. And as
o
we've
caminho de
said,
transformação e de inovação é
the
inevitável,
transformation
né?
pathway and
O
evolution
interessante é a percepção, né,
is very
dos dois lados,
interesting.
né, tanto
It
das
is interesting the
entidades
perception from both
quanto
parties,
das
the
pessoas
entities
físicas,
and
justamente
the
dessa necessidade da
individuals,
experiência, da
and
melhor
this
experiência,
need
uma
to
vez
have
que
the
a
best
pessoa, como foi dito
experience,
aqui
because
também
as we've
inicialmente,
said
a
here,
pessoa física, ela deixa de ser o número de uma
individuals,
conta bancária quando ela
they
está
will not
transacionando com o
only
banco
be
e um número de uma
attached
apólice
to
na,
banking
uma
accounts
seguradora e por aí vai. Na verdade, é uma
or
única
a
pessoa ali, um
number
único
in
usuário,
an
e
insurer
ele tem
company,
relacionamento em diversas
but
jornadas
they
no
will
seu dia a
have a
dia com diversos
relationship
players diferentes.
with different
Então, acho que
journeys and different
duas coisas foram
experiences.
muito
So
interessantes
two
nos
things
últimos
were very
tempos. Uma
interesting
delas
in the last
a própria
years.
pandemia, né, trouxe
The
uma
pandemic
percepção para as
itself
pessoas da adoção
brought
de
this
tecnologias
perception
que antes se falava, por daqui a
of
10, 15
technology,
anos a gente vai estar
brand new
usando isso
technology,
daí,
state of the art
né?
technology,
Home
things
office
that
é uma
we
dessas
thought
coisas, né?
that
Pô, a
we
gente
would
tá daqui
use
a 10, 15 anos isso
in
vai ser uma
10 or
realidade.
15
De repente,
years, right?
de um
Home
mês para o mês
office, for
seguinte, as pessoas
instance.
se viram
But
obrigadas
then,
ali a estar utilizando. Assim como
from
outras tecnologias, né?
from
Tecnologias de
overnight,
sem
everything
contato, ou
changed.
tecnologia, a própria biometria,
We have
reconhecimento facial, etc.
technology,
Então, assim, eu
biometry,
acho que
facial
o
recognition,
meu
and so
último
on.
ponto aqui,
So, my
a
last
mensagem é que é
thought
um caminho
here
inevitável, né?
is
É
that
uma
it
questão
is
de
an
tempo e é uma questão
unavoidable
de nos
pathway.
adaptarmos
So we need to
culturalmente
adapt
a essa nova
ourselves. We need
realidade.
to fit into this new
Bom,
reality
agradecer a
that is
participação de todo
emerging.
mundo, tá aqui aprendendo
I'd like
bastante
to
também,
thank
isso é importante.
for the
Se o
participation of all of
Ricardo
you. It's
tem
very
que
important to
deixar,
be
eu
here.
sigo muito isso, é que você tem que inovar
And
a todo tempo.
yes, we need
CPF
to
por
innovate
CPF,
all
eles
the
têm alguns
time.
comportamentos padrões, mas quanto mais
Social security
customizável,
number.
entendendo como você quer falar com esse
We
cliente,
have
ele é inevitável,
customized
mas nunca deixe de
services,
revisitar. Porque o que
and
você
we
fez
should
ontem,
not
talvez amanhã já
leave
não
our customers
funcione porque está em
behind,
constante
right?
evolução.
Because what you
Então, a
are
gente viu
doing
isso na
today
logística,
might
a
not
gente viu
be
isso
what
nas
you would
operações.
need to
Nada
do
mais é como
tomorrow.
antigamente. Então, tem que se
Nothing
mudar a todo
is
momento para ganhar
as
eficiência
before.
e atender
We
melhor a
need to
necessidade do
change
próprio
our
cliente. E a
mindsets,
necessidade do
and
cliente,
we need to
ela é
acquire
complexa. Porque hoje ele quer de uma
trust
forma, amanhã ele quer de
from our
outra. E
customers.
como a gente tem o objetivo de facilitar a vida do
Customers,
cliente
they are very
e melhorar a
demanding.
experiência do usuário,
They want
é também
to
deixar ele mais
have high
disponível para ter
quality
os seus prazeres da vida. Então,
services.
como que a gente consegue, no meio do
So
prazer
how
da
can
vida,
we, in the
facilitar
middle of
aquele
the
minuto que
way,
você perderia
make
para pagar um
easier
boleto ou para entrar no
things
supermercado
and
ou
and
qualquer
try
coisa que você
to
deixaria
make
o
easier
seu
the
momento
financial
prazeroso,
process
como que
for
você
people to
adentra
pay their
nesse modelo para
bills,
você colocar o seu
to
produto
have
da
this new
melhor forma,
model,
atendendo a necessidade
to
dos
put
clientes,
your
tá bom?
product the
Era
best
isso que
way
eu queria falar
possible
e
and be
agradecer
able to
novamente.
meet the customers'
Acho que
needs.
o meu recado final para
I think that my
pensar,
final
acho que a
remark
gente viveu dois
is that
momentos
we've lived two
nos
different
últimos anos.
moments
Fizemos
in
inovação no
in
mercado como um
in
todo,
the last years.
principalmente na questão
We
de
had an
consumo, né?
innovation
Varejo
on
e
the
também
market,
serviços
even
financeiros.
considering
Acho que a gente
consumption
teve o
and
primeiro, né, primeiro momento
financial
revolução de
services.
quando
We
todo
had
mundo
a
meio que
revolution when
virou religião
everybody
colocar o cliente no centro. Então todo mundo virou o
we
posicionamento do
now
cliente,
have
etc.
this
E nisso se
customer-centered
criou muito valor
approach.
para os clientes.
So
Os
then we
clientes
were able to create
ficavam
value to
positivamente
customers.
surpresos e devido a
Customers,
isso
they
tivemos a
used to be
revolução de muitos
surprised,
mercados,
and
como
then
de
we had a
logística, de
revolution
varejo,
of
enfim, de
some
e-commerce,
markets,
que
logistics,
fez como que muitas
e-commerce,
empresas escalaram, enfim.
and all of that
Agora eu
made
acho que já
companies
passamos
to scale.
pós-pandemia num segundo
So
momento.
now,
E esse segundo
post-pandemic,
momento é o
it
momento
is a
onde o
second
cliente
moment.
entendeu que
It is
ele
a
tem que
moment
estar no
in
centro.
which
Então ele não
customers
está mais nos
they
agradecendo por
they
isso.
now
Pelo
understand
contrário,
that
ele
they
subiu a
need
barra
to
de
be in the
expectativa
center. They need to
enormemente.
be in the
Então ele
spotlight.
saiu já um pouco na frente, né? Já
So
algumas
they
coisas
are
que
in
eram
the front
uau
line.
antes, não só que não são uau, como as
So
pequenas
some
falhas
things
que
that
cada um de
were
nós faz na
different
operação,
before
hoje
time
já não
are
são
not
mais
different
aceitáveis.
any longer.
Então,
And we
nessa,
have
acho
also
que
things that are
hoje
not acceptable.
não estamos, né?
So
Obviamente, quando
today,
olhamos 5 anos atrás, em
obviously,
comparação com 5 anos
considering
atrás,
5
estamos num
years
momento
ago,
completamente diferente.
we are in a completely
Mas
different
hoje eu
scenario.
acho que
And
o
today,
cliente está 100% satisfeito. Acho
I
que
don't
todos
think that the
nós aqui
customer
estamos
is
devendo para o
100%
cliente hoje em
satisfied.
relação a qual que
We
é a
all
expectativa
owe to
e
our
quanto ela
customers
mudou
towards their
graças a esse primeiro momento
expectations.
que vivemos. Mas isso é ótimo, porque assim
But
que a
that's
gente
great.
continua inovando e
So
assim que
then
a
we
gente
can
continua
continue
melhorando tudo que a gente vai
evolving
entregando.
and
Então,
improving
acho
everything
que às
that
vezes é
we
pouco
deliver.
frustrante, mas é o que nos leva para
So
frente, como sempre.
sometimes it is frustrating, but that is
Obrigado a
what
todos, obrigado ao
makes
pessoal
us
também que
move
nos
forward.
assistiu aqui.
Thank you very
E
much,
sucesso para todos aí nesse ano que vai ser
and success to all of you.
para todo mundo, né?
So it's
Acho que a
going to
Copa também
be
acaba delimitando aí
post
sucesso
World
de muitos
Cup,
mercados e vamos torcer aí para que
and
todos
we want all the markets to
Obrigada.
succeed. Thank you.